What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Hurricanes Unfiltered, powered by Come On Now, the podcast. I'm your host, Rudy Rodriguez. Show hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell, leave your comments, man. We had a big show here. This is an interesting topic here that I'm going to bring to y'all. I told you I was going to be doing a top five list for every position, and this is part two. Well, the second edition of it. This is the top five running backs in since 1980 for the Miami Hurricanes, and obviously we all have opinions, and I'm open to hearing yours, and I'm going to give you mine and give you my top five running backs of all time in Miami Hurricane football history. Well, really since 1980, because I am 48 and I am not educated enough to know what the heck happened in 1960. And yeah, I don't think we really have any running backs from the 1960s that would compare to anybody right now. I guess the one guy that people could talk about would be Otis Anderson from 1975 to 1978, but I'm looking here from a perspective of, once again, what you did what you did at the University of Miami, the criteria, what you did at Miami, your impact on the program, and your impact nationally. So there's a few criteria to it, and obviously, I mean, your historical background and so forth. So this is not based on your NFL experience. This is not based on what you did in the NFL. If you're a Hall of Famer in the NFL, I don't care. This is not based on if you're in the Hall of Fame. This is all based on what you did at Miami and how you impacted the University of Miami. Let's talk about it. Welcome back once again, like I said, and we're going to first give a shout out to the sponsor of our show, Natalie Lopez, attorney at law. When life hits hard, the law firm Natalie Lopez hits back harder. Practicing the areas of criminal defense and family law. You can reach her at 954-888-8833. That's 954-888-8833. Also on Instagram at nat.guilty, nat.guilty. She will fight for you. Thank you, Natalie, for your continued support of our show. We're going to start going from 5 to 1. And like I said, I gave my criteria. Y'all let me know what y'all think. And I've been going back and forth with this because this one's tough. This might be one of the tougher positions to talk about because there have been so many great running backs at Miami, and you have to make a decision based on your opinion on what was the most important thing. And we're all gonna have our opinions on that. What impact did the guy have on the program? The greatest games ever, the component of one season comparison to longevity at the position, at the school. So that's going to leave some things up for debate and conversation. But let's jump in on the topic right now. First thing we're going to do is we're going to hit some honorable mentions right here. And one of the criteria that I threw in here myself to make it a little easier for myself, and so maybe I'm cheating a little bit here, is you had to have rushed for at least 1,000 yards in a season. And you'll say, well, that's not fair, blah, blah, blah. No, it's completely fair. It allows me to differentiate on certain aspects. So that means someone like Frank Gore will not be in the top five. You may say, "Bump, that's crazy." Realistically, Frank Gore had his career at Miami thwarted by injuries. I mean, he dealt with a lot of injuries when he was at Miami, so he didn't become the back that he became until he was a pro. He had that great dynamic freshman season playing behind Clinton Portis, and so he took yards that year from Clinton Portis that otherwise would have been Portis. And because Portis could have done all of what Frank Gore did in terms of that production, maybe he wouldn't have had those two massive, like 80-yard runs that maybe he wouldn't have had those two long 60 to 80-yard runs. Or he had those two humongous runs. I remember that in that season in 01 where he was killing people. Was it 80? Was that in 01 or was that in 02? Oh, that was 01. Yeah, it was 01 where he was averaging 9 yards a carry. But yeah, that's going to knock him out. And there are other backs that will get knocked out too because of that. Like, let's say, for example, a Edgerrin James would not be in this conversation. A Greg Cooper would not be in this conversation. So you have to have had at least 1,000 yards. So let's hit that one right there. So there's no Frank Gore, and he will not be part of this list. So let's jump in on number 5. Number 5, and you may say that this is some level of recency bias, and you may say, oh, blah, blah, blah. You're going to have some reasons, I'm sure. Or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll completely agree with me. Maybe you'll say, yeah, I'm on that one. Number 5 is Mark Fletcher. Mark Fletcher Jr., he is going into his senior year at Miami, and this is where longevity at a program is beneficial. Mark Fletcher is going to go into his senior year. He's played 3 years at Miami. He is currently sitting right now, going into his senior year, seventh all time in rushing at the University of Miami. He has 2,313 yards rushing on 433 carries. He also has 34 catches for 308 yards. This guy has really emerged he really emerged in the playoffs, and we saw another level of Mark Fletcher Jr., which was very, very enjoyable to watch. He runs hard, he runs like a truck, and if we can see a healthy senior year for Mark Fletcher has a legitimate chance to become the all-time leading rusher in Miami Hurricane football history. Like, it's a legitimate opportunity, especially with the extra games that you got now. It would not be surprising in the least if Mark Fletcher ended up becoming the all-time leading rusher for Miami Hurricane football. And yeah, it'll take him 4 years to do it and more games than Duke Johnson, but he's already played more games than Duke Johnson on top of that. But Duke Johnson had extra 100 carries. Again, Duke Johnson was a special type of back, and he had that breakaway speed as well, whereas Fletcher hasn't had that breakaway speed, but he did show it in the playoffs. So he does have that opportunity to become the leading rusher of all time in Miami football. Will that make him the number one running back ever at Miami? Not necessarily. Depends on what he does his last year. But if he rushes for, the number is 3519 minus 2313, 1,206 yards. He rushed for 1,192 this past season. If he rushes for 1,206 yards, 1,207, he will be the all-time leading rusher in Miami Hurricane football history. And I think that's pretty goddamn special. So I got Mark Fletcher. Yes, there's probably some recency bias in there. That's probably the one that's going to have people arguing the most. But when I look at the guys from back in the 80s and the 90s, Miami never really had a guy that was a crazy good running back. They had good running backs, but they didn't have anyone that was like, we didn't have any Barry Sanders, Thurman Thomas, any of those crazy good 1980s running backs that were rushing for a truckload of yards. We didn't have that. So it's hard to consider those guys for this top 5. So yeah, that's number 5 is Mark Fletcher Jr. Number 4. Now, again, this is gonna be a lot of debate here going on, folks. I'm telling you right now, you're not gonna like some of some of you may completely agree. Some of you may say, Rudy, you're out of your freaking mind. And I'm all for it. I'm all for it right here. But my number 4 running back of all time in Miami Hurricane football history is Willis McGahee. Willis McGahee was a Heisman Trophy contender. Willis McGahee had 1 season. And that's probably the one thing that holds Willis McGahee back from being higher on this list. He's 11th all-time in rushing at Miami with 2,067 yards, for which he did most of that work in 1 season in 2002 for the team that lost to the Ohio State Buckeyes in the national championship. McGahee rushed 282 times for 1,753 yards, the singular greatest rushing season in Miami Hurricane football history. He had 28 touchdowns. I mean, that's freaking ridiculous. He had a game with 6 touchdown rushes against Virginia Tech in a 56-45 win. He had 39 carries for 205 yards and 6 touchdowns. I mean, that's just out of control. He had a second 200-yard game against Florida early in the season, 24 carries for 204 yards. He had a 4-touchdown game, a 6-touchdown game, multiple 3-touchdown games. And this guy was an absolute wrecking ball. Speed demon, a destroyer. Also had 27 catches for 355 yards that year, combined for over 2,100 yards of total offense in that season. And then he got hurt against Ohio State, obviously, and that hurt him a great deal as far as his draft status. But then, he didn't come back to Miami. That was his 1 year. He had that 1 year before that where he was like the 3rd string guy or 4th string guy, in battling for time with the Clinton Portis and Frank Gore and Najee Davenport and those guys that were there at the time. And he didn't get a lot of opportunity. That one particular season where that first season, he had 67 carries for 314 yards. So if he had stayed for another year, it's possible he might be the leading rusher of all time. So it's quite a possibility. But I got Willis McGahee at number 4. Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. Number 3. Again, there may be some debates. This guy played 3 years at the University of Miami from 1999 to 2001. Would have loved to have seen him come back for 2002, but he decided to turn pro after rushing 220 times for 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns, 12 catches for 125 yards. He helped lead Miami to a national championship in 2001. That is one Clinton Portis. Clinton Portis obviously had a very, very good NFL career. His 1,200-yard season was a top shelf season, considering the fact that he was sharing time with Frank Gore and Willis McGahee. If you think about the fact that if you look at the numbers that Frank Gore got that one particular year, Frank Gore had 62 carries for 562 yards. And this was in the same time that Clinton Portis went for 1,200 yards rushing. And if you actually include Willis McGahee in that conversation, he also rushed for 314. Clinton Portis, if he was the main focal back, he could have rushed for probably 1,700 yards that year. He was that good. I mean, Clinton Portis was a joy to watch play football. Enjoyed him greatly. I thought he was so much fun as a player at Miami. I thought he was so damn good. I mean, again, his NFL career was awesome. But again, this is not about the NFL. This is about what you did at Miami. And he rushed for 2,523 yards at Miami. He is all-time number 5 all-time. 5.7 yards per carry, 20 total touchdowns, 21 catches for 272 yards for his career. Dude was a ball player, man. Dude was a big-time ball player. Loved watching my guy Clinton Portis in action. He is number 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Oh, by the way, just to hit on a couple of games, that was my bad. I forgot to do that part. Clinton Portis in that year, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What was it? 3, 800-plus yard games. He had 17 carries for 164 at Penn State. He had 24 for 131 at Pitt. 17 for 122 at Florida State. 36 carries. Imagine 36 carries in the game today for 160 at Boston College. 34 for 124 against Virginia Tech. Why don't they have the game against Nebraska on here? I don't know why. Where is the game against Nebraska? Because he sure as shit played. I don't see the stats here against Nebraska for whatever reason. They don't have the stats here. So let me see this. Interesting. They don't have the stats here for Nebraska for Willis McGahee either. Did they have him for Frank Gore? Where's Frank Gore? 2001. No, they don't have the freaking the bowl game against Nebraska. Interesting. What did he rush for against Nebraska? Clinton Portis versus Nebraska. Against Nebraska, he rushed 20 times for 104 yards. Had a 39-yard touchdown. He basically sat most of a good part of the second half as Miami sat people and didn't try to really destroy them. We could have won that game by so many more points. It was 34-0 at halftime. We could have absolutely blown the building up, blown the doors off their asses. But he had 20 carries. McGahee had 2. Gore had 2. Yeah, we only ran the ball 24 times in that game, and we threw the ball in that game 35 times. So could have done a lot more if they had given the ball more. So he is my number 3 all time. Number two. This is a guy who rushed for 3,519 yards at Miami in his 3 seasons of play, 2012 to 2014. This is one Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson is the all-time leading rusher in Miami Hurricane football history. 3,519 yards on 526 carries, 6.7 yards per carry, 26 touchdowns. Also a menace out of the backfield, 69 catches, 1,719 yards. All-time 4,238 yards from scrimmage, 7.1 yards per average, and 30 touchdowns. He leads Miami from yards from scrimmage, rushing yards. He is not number 1 in touchdowns. He is actually number 6 in touchdowns from the running back position. But all-time yards-wise, he is number 1 all-time in yards from scrimmage. Duke Johnson, man, I can tell you stories about Duke Johnson. I covered Duke Johnson when he was at Miami Northern High School, when he was a freshman, in fact. His first breakout game was a game I covered against Dillard. I believe it was against Dillard. He balled out, man, and you saw a kid that was special, and he became that dude, and he just got better and better and better and better. He had NFL career as well. But he also played at a time at Miami where Miami wasn't very good. I mean, you just gotta be honest. The fact that he was able to do the types of things that he did in a time where our talent level wasn't the greatest also tells you about how good Duke Johnson was. Duke Johnson had a season where he rushed 1,652 yards in his junior year. He was 242 carries, 1,652 yards, 6.8 yards per carry, 10 touchdowns. He also had 38 catches for 421, 2,073 yards from scrimmage, 13 total touchdowns. As a freshman, he had 139 carries for 947 yards, 6.8 yards, 10 touchdowns. And then as a sophomore, he only played 8 games because he got hurt, and he had 145 carries for 920 yards. I mean, this guy, if it wasn't for injury, like he would have had close to 4,000 yards probably, and if he had come back for his senior year, he'd be so far ahead away from anyone ever touching his all-time rushing record at Miami that it would be probably close to impossible to ever see anyone touch that record. But he left after his junior year and went on to the NFL. Had he come back, he would have had probably 5,000 rushing yards at Miami, and then it would be hard to even say anything about anybody potentially having a better career at Miami than him. But we do got one guy, and again, that's not number two is Duke Johnson. And again, pleasure to watch this kid play football from when I saw him in high school to him at University of Miami. It's just a shame that he didn't get the opportunity to play with better talent around him and have better results in terms of those seasons. Like, that season we were 6-7 where he rushed for six. Think about it, 6-7, and he rushed for 1,652 yards. Like that. That's crazy. That's crazy. He had games where he had a game for 155, 100, 162, 249 against Virginia Tech, 177 against North Carolina, 130 against Florida State, 132 against South Carolina. I mean, the dude he was special, man. He is number 2 all time for me at the University of Miami from the running back position. And with no further ado, I think we all agree on this one. I think it'd be hard pressed to not agree on this one. It's you don't have to be the all-time leading rusher in history to be the best running back ever at the school while you were at the school. Like, you just don't have to be. And that's the thing. People equate all-time leading rusher with the best. There is no running back in Miami Hurricane football history to me that has had a greater impact on the Miami Hurricanes than this guy. He rushed for 2,929 yards on 489 carries. He played at a time in which Miami was going through the shits. Like, if you thought Duke Johnson played at a time where Miami was having some problems, I don't want to say his name yet. This guy came to Miami at a time in which Miami was going through the doldrums of probation in the late 90s. And you already know who it is by now. I'm sure you already know who it was because I'm sure most people would probably agree with this selection as number 1. But Edgerrin James, what he did at Miami was nothing short of spectacular. This is a guy that came on board when we were about to go 5. What did we go 5-6 in 1997? 5-6. Like think about this for a second. We went 5-6. This dude rushed in 10 games. He rushed for 1,098 yards in a 5-6 season. I mean, the dude was the entire team. He was the entire team. He had 400-yard games. He had a game against Boston College where he went 33 carries for 271 yards and 3 touchdowns. He went for 151 against Arkansas State, 194 against Rutgers, 109 versus Pitt, 120 versus Baylor. And this is also in a season in which I was at this game in Tallahassee when Miami lost 47-0. He had 13 carries for 5 yards. So he basically played what did he play? 9 games because he had 5 yards. The dude was and this was just the beginning of him. This was his second year. This was his sophomore season where, man, we sucked. Like, bluntly, we sucked. So he did all this with a dumpster fire going on. And then he comes back in 1998. And at the time, I believe this was the most yards ever in history by a running back. He rushed for 1,416 yards, 17 touchdowns, 17 catches for 255 and 2 touchdowns, 1,671 from scrimmage, 19 total touchdowns, rushed for 5.9 yards per carry. And the Miami Hurricanes ended up going 9-3 that year. And that was the year in which Scott Covington got carried off the field when we played UCLA in our season finale at the Orange Bowl in front of probably like 35,000 people. after Miami beat UCLA 49-45 and ended UCLA's undefeated season and chance for a national championship as they were undefeated at the time and likely heading to a national championship game. That game that Edgerrin James played against UCLA was the greatest singular running back performance in the history of Miami Hurricanes football. If you didn't see it, I'm telling you right now, go Google YouTube, Google it, watch it on YouTube. I'm sure you'll find it. Miami versus UCLA in 1998. The game was on December 5th of 1998. Unreal. And he was he was the guy that kind of, if you want to say, he's the one that bridged probation to one of the greatest stretches of college football that you've ever seen with the 2000, 2001, 2002 teams. We had that gap year 98, 99 where we went 9-4. I think we were 9-4. 9-3, 9-4. I'm not looking. So he was that bridge, and that was that next year was when we had Kenny Kelly starting at quarterback, and then Ken Dorsey came on a little bit later in the season, and we beat Georgia Tech in the bowl game. But he was that bridge, and he was the guy that made you believe that maybe Miami would get back to where it was, that Butch Davis was going in the right direction, blase, blase. But he ran for 39 carries for 299 yards and 3 touchdowns. Go watch that game. This is a guy that in that season had 1, 2, 3. He finished the season with 7 straight 100-plus yard games. Started the season off a little bit slow, 77 yards, 89 yards, 96 yards, 129 against Rutgers, 24 yards against Florida State. Florida State was a rough one back then, guys. They were just better than us. That's it. They were so much better than us. For over that stretch, late 90s, FSU was over here and we were here. Like it was like almost unfair. West Virginia, 31 for 162. Boston College, 31 for 182. Temple, 26 for 137. Pitt, 23 for 106. Syracuse, 18 for 115. This is the game we lost 66-13, by the way. That Donovan McNabb blowout at the Carrier Dome. UCLA, 39 for 299. And the bowl game against NC State, 20 carries for 156 yards. That bowl game was actually in Miami at the Micron PC Bowl. I was at that game. I remember that game. He crushed it, man. We blew them out so bad that he didn't play much of the second half. He didn't play a lot in the second half of that game. Like we beat them 46-23, beat the doors off their asses, and he didn't play a whole ton. I mean, that was, James Jackson had 11 carries for 99 yards. Like Najee Davenport played in that game. Like this team was a team that was like, it came on late, and it was a little sad because, I mean, we did get blasted by Syracuse, but we lost 2 games early. We lost to Virginia Tech, and then we lost to Florida State. We were 3-2, and we won 6 of our last 7 games, man, and finished 9-3. So it was a solid year. Edgerrin James establishes himself as the premier running back one of the premier running backs in the country. He ends up getting drafted in the top 5 by Indianapolis, and the rest is history for him. I mean, the man had a Hall of Fame. I mean, Edge is in the Hall of Fame now, isn't he? Isn't Edge in the Hall of Fame? Let me see. I'm pretty sure he is. If he's not, he should be. I've lost track of this stuff, folks. I'm sorry. Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame, class of 2020. This is a guy that, I mean, has earned everything he's gotten from Immokalee, Florida, where they got nothing there, bro. They got nothing. Like nothing there. He came from nothing and became this, and he was the bridge. He was absolutely the bridge, man. And for that, to me, and the performance, that UCLA singular game performance, people, if you haven't seen it, Google it and watch it. It was the greatest thing you've ever seen. At a time where you fed the running back and gave him the ball and gave him the ball and gave him the ball, is actually what you might want to see the Miami Hurricanes, what you might have wanted to see the Miami Hurricanes do with Mark Fletcher more often this year, especially against Indiana. Like, I would have been happy to see Mark Fletcher take it 35 times against Indiana. Seriously. It would have been some old school football right there. But Edge, man, he was that dude. He is number 1 all time. Y'all let me know y'all thoughts in the comments. Do you agree with this list? Do you got somebody else up in here? If so, put your list in the comments, man. This is all love, man. These are just opinions. We all got one. Edgerrin James, Duke Johnson, Clinton Portis, Willis McGahee. Who the hell was my last one? Did I freaking forget? Mark Fletcher. That's right. Leave your comments, man. I appreciate y'all. Share this video, man, as well. Like, subscribe, follow. This is Hurricanes Unfiltered, powered by Come On Now, the podcast. Come on now.